Hello and welcome to the Overly Animated Podcast, where we take animation seriously. We talk everything animation here, including a final space, which we'll be getting into right now. I'm Dylan Hysen, and today I'm joined by Michelle Anderer.
Hello.
April Collins.
Hi.
And Alex Bonilla.
Chukri.
Let's see how long that lasts. Of us keep saying chukri at all times.
Okay.
Today,
did I ruin it?
it might be old already. Yeah. Michelle, April, Alex, and I will be talking Chapter 3 of Final Space, entitled Chapter 3, as we've talked about. They're just their chapter names.
They're just chapters.
Yeah. The new TBS adult animated sci-fi series created by Olin Rogers. Check it if you've not seen Final Space. Definitely check out the premiere first 2 episodes and then Chapter 3 as well. We'll be getting into. We will be talking Final Space every week that it's new here on the Overly Animated Podcast. Find us at overlyanimated.com or search for Overly Animated Final Space, where you'll find our Final Space specific iTunes feed. Subscribe to that or else on YouTube to not miss any of our future Final Space recap podcasts. Like I said, yeah, we did a podcast on chapters 1 and 2, got in some interesting stuff. We have some, fresh perspectives and some old perspectives on here, and we'll be getting into all of that on chapter 3. Spoilers for that. This episode, make sure you've seen chapter 3 of Final Space. Michelle, we did not have you on the previous podcast, so what are your general impressions of this show quickly, and then into, thoughts on chapter 3?
I liked it more than I thought I would, but I should also say I went into this like totally blind. So I had like no expectations. I'd seen like a few like random images on the internet, but that's about it. Is in terms of like my priming for it. I like that it seems to have like a plot that's going on in the background that links the episodes together. That's the kind of like world building I'm a fan of, and I'm glad that's still there and it's not something that it's just like episode by episode, completely standalone. I like that that's like becoming sort of more of a trend in animated shows recently. Mm-hmm. I still find Gary very frustrating as a protagonist, but I'm getting a little more warmed up to him based on his interactions with the other people in the cast. Mooncake's MVP for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. Those are my general thoughts so far.
Okay. What about chapter 3 specifically?
I thought this one was fine. It was not my favorite. I think I liked the second one the most so far. But it was by no means a bad episode, but I don't know. I wasn't like super crazy about like the Coliseum Arena type thing. Cause like my thought was just like, well, like Mooncake like kind of hovers. Could he just fly out of there? Like, why do you even stay there? Probably
that's a good question.
Left.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, like I didn't think it was bad, but we'll probably get into it, and I can give you some more specifics later.
Okay. Yeah, well, we'll get into specifics. April, same question, general thoughts, and then chapter 3 specific ones.
So I liked this show way more than I thought I was going to as well. Like the first episode, I was like, okay, yeah, this is, here we are. And then like after the second episode, I was like, okay, I want to watch more of this. So, I'm enjoying it. There's so many questions, and I love, David Tennant as Lord Commander, cause I knew David Tennant was in the show and I'm a huge fan of his. And then I was like, what character is he? I can't tell. And then I literally had to Google it, which made me excited, just to see that he has that range of voice. But I agree that Gary can be very frustrating, but he's sort of like endearing in his idiot, like in the fact that he's a huge idiot. Like, and I love that, he was trapped in like a jail essentially, but he was just by himself and he's surrounded by robots and he gave them all names and like wrote it on them.
That doesn't seem cost effective. Why are there so many robots for this one guy in space when you shove like 4 people into space together?
Yeah,
like that's so expensive.
These are all points we hit on in our first podcast. Yes.
Yeah, I listened to it and then I was just like, these are all my same thoughts. Like,
okay. What about chapter 3, April?
I liked it. It was like, it moved very quickly, and I like shows that move quickly, especially because we don't know how many episodes we're going to get. I know there's 10, but that's it. So, or at least as of right now, all I know is that there's 10. So, and it like, I like that it's like building more of like what is going on kind of thing. Like, I like questions that are, I like when I'm like ask myself like, okay, like what is this thing? Like how does this play into this? Like, and it just sort of like keeps building from there. So I liked it. And it was more adult than the previous 2 episodes, and this is an adult show, so I'm into that.
This is an adult show, yeah. Yeah, this is Final Space very heavily serialized. That's definitely one of the big selling points. Narrative definitely continuing throughout the episodes. Okay, Alex, what are your thoughts on Chapter 3?
When I finished watching the episode, my thoughts were, I feel like a pinball machine, because in our first podcast, we talked about how ambitious this show was, to the point where it was having like not only A and B plot, but we were also getting to C plot and D plot.
Yes.
And the same thing here. And I think like here it was even bouncing around even faster. Like one minute we're with Gary and Avocato, 1 minute we're with Mooncake, 1 minute we're with Lord Commander, and then we have Quinn doing her thing too. So it didn't feel like we stuck on anything for too long. So I guess in that way it's good to at least keep me excited, or keep the hype going by not staying on anything for too long. I want to say that the Gary and Avocato segment was the weakest of the 4 main plots we have. But I do want to praise, I know I was very weak on my praise of Mooncake in our first podcast, but I am all in on Mooncake now.
Look who's come around.
Somehow this episode made him a character, even if he doesn't talk. Like, seeing guilt, seeing, like, love, it makes me all squishy inside. And I don't know, like, this episode in particular just made me buy into Mooncake. Like, okay, I'm with you now, show. You're not just a cutie pie. You actually have traits, which is surprising. So at least this episode did something so that it will prepare my heart to be broken later on in the show, I'm sure.
Well. Look who's come around to the Mooncake fan club.
Gloating, Dylan.
Yeah, as person who is all in on Mooncake, the first time I saw the image of him, I'm very happy with this. Yeah, he's definitely a character here, as opposed to before, more of like the cute mascot. Yeah, it's great. Okay, this is interesting. I really love Chapter 3. I think this is by far the best episode of the show, and I agree with Alex that is incredibly ambitiously paced. Once again, much like Chapter 2, we have 4 plots going at once during the climax, but I think it really all comes together well. And I think the big thing that makes this episode click is that we get real answers to plot questions that came up in chapters 1 and 2. It's really well doled out throughout the episode, mostly in the context of the Lord Commander. And all the plot lines converge really well into the climax. Lord Commander shows up there, and we all converge together. Like, I think literally all 4 of the plot lines intersect at some point throughout the episode. So despite the fact that it's like, this show moves way too fast so far. But this is actually something we've talked about with 1 or 2 of our other shows. A lot of the shows we cover are too slow, and I think that's way more frustrating than too fast. I'd much prefer this. So I'm pleased that we're moving fast, that we have, maybe we don't need 4 things going at once, but I think it all came together really well. The episode had a framing device. It brought all the plots together. I was a big fan. I'm pretty bullish on the show after this episode. And
I think like a lot of the shows we cover are 11 minutes, and there with an 11-minute episode, you do an A plot, a B plot, that's enough. Yeah. But when you see those shows trying to do A plot and B plot for 22 minutes, like when they have the extended episodes, sometimes that doesn't end up working. So here, using the 22 minutes to like add 2 extra plot lines, it's an interesting idea that isn't used as often as I think it should be.
I'm curious to see if they continue this throughout, because it does seem our characters are converging. Probably at the end of this episode, Quinn is going to meet Gary next episode. So, I don't know if we'll have, these 4 separate plot lines. I don't know if it's necessarily a success because there's so many, because, I don't think Quinn's plot line is great this episode. So, like, we didn't really need, like, it converges well with the other ones, but didn't really need that separate one.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's more of just the other 3, that kind of intersect well. I don't know. I'll point out highlights I had throughout the episode as we go, but I don't know. Do we want to start? What do we want to start from the beginning? Do we want to start from our big plot revelations? Because we learn a lot about the concept of the show that was not clear from the first 2 episodes. I guess we can start with the big things we learned because final space, we talked about this the first podcast. We were like, what is this? And we didn't really have an answer, but it is something that Mooncake can unlock is what we learned. Yeah. So it's probably the deepest regions of space, some sort of interdimensional thing. I don't know. It seems like it can heal the Lord Commander who is dying.
Yeah, it can do multiple things, and I'm not sure if Final Space is related to preserving Lord Commander's life, or if Mooncake can just, like, he's multifaceted enough in his abilities to do things, like both of those things at once. I don't know. I'm curious how those are gonna, like, connect, though.
Right. Earlier in the episode, Lord Commander says Mooncake can heal me or save me. And then later he says Mooncake can unlock Final Space. I assume those are the same thing, but it could be different.
I assumed they were different because, like, I could see where everyone else wants to unlock Final Space, but maybe like that's something that, you know, is a positive. Versus he's like, yeah, that's great. You can unlock Final Space, but I want to live. Like,
that motivation differentiation. Yeah.
Another detail to add in here when he has that encounter with the Order of the 12, that the leader says something like, every time you use your light, you lose, you quicken your death. So I also wonder if there's a way to connect them, like Final Space could be a source of energy, perhaps, and that relates back to light. And
I assume his light is his force powers or his life force, one of the two, because he can psychically manipulate things. So it seems like when she says, Helper Hula, when she says that, seems like she's referring to that when he uses his psychic powers, he dies faster. So we learned the Lord Commander is dying. Was this something that anyone saw coming from the first 2 episodes?
No.
Yeah.
Not especially.
Yeah, I think.
But I like it.
Okay, why do you like it?
Because he's vulnerable. You know what I mean? Like, we get so many
power.
Yeah,
so
there's a limit.
Unstoppable foe.
Yeah, he's not an unstoppable force. Where we get into so many shows where, like, it's like, oh, we have this evil person and nothing can stop them, and it's like, but we have this evil person, and if they try to stop us, then, like, they die. So, you know what I mean? Like, I like that there's, I guess,
limitations.
Yeah, there's, like, limitations, and there's consequences for, like, the evil, you know, the big evil of the show. So,
yeah,
kind of, it's a balance thing. I like balancing.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, do you agree, Alex? It makes him more interesting.
Yeah, definitely. It's a solid motive. I wish that could have been set up a little bit in the first 2 episodes, but it's good enough to, like, make it interesting rather than just solely I want to take over the universe. Like, you're adding a little personal details, and I'm good with that.
Right. Yeah. It plays like this is completely new information to the audience, and it really could have been hinted at in the first 2 because I feel like there are other things that are hinted at in the first 2, like Final Space. I mean, maybe they don't really say it or anything, but like
it's hinted by the intro.
Yeah, Mooncake being important and doing. Yeah, I don't know. It feels like it came out of nowhere, but like we talked about in the first podcast, what's Lord Commander's motivations for wanting Mooncake? We speculate it's just so he can use the Planet Killer to take over the universe, and that would have been very stale and similar to other shows we cover. So I much prefer some sort of personal motivation here. Yeah. I think it's a good call on the direction to go. We talked about the Order of the 12. This is what I was referring to with the framing device for the show because, for the episode, because we see, Lord Commander go to the Order of the 12 and talk to Helper Hula, presumably the boss. And, then independently, Gary and Avocato show up, at the Yarno chapter of the Order of the 12 and they talk to people there and, they're kind of controlling everything on Yarno. I think it really brings the episode together. And also I think these weird alien helper things are pretty cool. The design, the concept, just kind of the secret order, I guess, that hides things. There's not a lot of depth to it, but I thought that it was one of the more interesting sci-fi concepts presented so far on the show.
It was very, what is it? It made me think of, like, in, this is going to sound totally lame. It made me think of in Hercules with the 3, I don't remember what they were. Yeah.
Why did it make you think of that?
Because of the floating eyes. Like, they had like the eyes sort of disconnected from themselves, and they were the eyes of the universe.
Oh, the witches, you mean? In the,
Yeah.
Okay, I thought you meant the singing ladies. Yeah, no, the witches. Okay,
Dylan, no.
just in their design concept. Yeah, I thought the eyes being separate. It's pretty interesting. Yeah, Michelle, what do you think of the Order of the 12?
I mean, I was a little. I mean, I thought they were fine. I was a little surprised that Lord Commander, like, he comes in, he's like, I've always respected how you guys do stuff, and then he immediately is like, I'm pissed off though, and like ruins all her eyeballs, and is like, I'm gonna come back and kill you unless you get the thing. So I guess it just kind of like further cements how he's like, you know, he'll go to whatever lengths, even if it like kind of fucks him up along the way.
Yeah,
But I was just
ruins
kinda,
all
like,
her eyeballs. Yeah.
Yeah, like if these are like these very respected, ancient, like powerful organization, like it's just interesting that he's like, I really respect you guys, but also I'm gonna mess with you. You don't do what I want.
Yeah, it establishes that they were there either before him or in conjunction with him being in power. Yeah.
I was gonna say it was a very like interesting interaction, just because you kind of like with most villains, they're like super like well known kind of thing, and everyone's like, oh, like they're scary, but it kind of like sort of humanizes him in the fact that like they're like, oh yeah, like we know who you are, and he's like, oh, I know who you guys are, I respect you guys, kind of thing, versus where like not everyone else is like, oh, the Lord Commander, like there he is, he's rolling up into the Order of the 12, like what could he want, kind of thing. So I think I liked that sort of interaction. It just kind of makes him seem less like, oh, he's just trying to take over the world, kind of thing.
Yeah. Alex, thoughts on the Order of the 12?
I'll just add that once again they do really well with the using their PG-13ness for the Lord Commander sequences, especially here where he like turns their eyes inside out. So, like,
lots of detail in the door.
Yeah, with Lord Commanders, I feel like is where they use their rating the most, and I enjoyed that sequence pretty good, just in terms of reinforcing. Like even though he's weak, he's still a powerful villain. So it's just a nice touch to add all the time whenever Lord Commander shows up.
Yeah, he continues to be menacing, I think, most of all, which is, I think, important for him. Like we talked about, I think, before, David Tennant, still very unrecognizable is in this role.
I love it.
Yeah, that's great. At the end of the last shot of the episode is him being, like, retrieved by one of his ships, I assume. So yeah, Gary does ends up getting around him in the episode, although it's not like they continue to have the instinct of run from him, not really fight him. Probably a good call from what we've seen. Let's talk Mooncake, I guess, because
It got happy.
Yeah. Yeah, everyone's favorite. So the most important thing about Mooncake in this episode is that we've added a new sound to his repertoire.
Wow.
At one point he went cue 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 cue.
You are the biggest Mooncake fanboy. Look at this.
I know.
Look
Yes,
at
all
what
the
notes
time.
you put down.
Yes, Q Q Q, and he goes chocolate after that. Yeah, my favorite sequence of the episode is when Gary is going to leave him off at the Order of the 12, and Mooncake's very sad, and he says chocolate and chocolate. Yeah, it's great. That was the best sequence of the episode, obviously, but also at the end with Gary when they're talking. Yeah,
most I liked Gary so far.
When he's like, it's not
It's
you.
not him
who's
being
bad.
dumb. It's not him causing a problem. It's him trying to reassure Mooncake, and that's the best use of Gary I've seen so far.
Right.
Also, when they reunite at the Coliseum, Gare, Chukri, like it's just happy.
That harmless gumball of love.
Yeah, we have this great line. Gary says, "Little green ball friend is a harmless gumball of love." I agree, Gary.
He's a little in denial, but like any like loving parent probably is to an extent.
That's right. He's a parent. Yeah. Yeah, Gary does not accept that
Right.
Mooncake is a super weapon. He was told this previously, but I guess in this episode he doesn't accept it until the end when he sees it for himself.
Gary has some issues that he's talked about, but
Yeah. Anyway, we'll get back to Gary for a second. But Mooncake, as Alex says, he is a character here. He starts feeling bad about killing all of these creatures in the Deathcropolis, and he gets sad, and he's like, he's about to accept being stepped on. But then at the end, Gary reassures him that it's not you who's the monster; it's the people who are using you as a weapon, and it doesn't change anything between us. The Mooncake was very happy.
It's a good moment. Like,
it was
it's
a beautiful
a genuinely
ending.
good moment.
I know.
Yes.
It was very, very mature.
Yeah, I think Mooncake and Gary continue to be some of the strongest elements of the show. I feel like those are the most emotional pull from the show is with Mooncake and Gary together.
Yeah, the most resonant for sure.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah, it's awesome. Okay. I don't know. I might have missed, Mooncake moments. We'll get back to that. But yeah, in the first podcast, we talked about, I have to hit on every Mooncake moment, as we know. But we talked about that Gary was, pretty unsympathetic lead and, basically an asshole in the first episode. Kind of like a likable, terrible person, kind of is how he came across. Is he less of a terrible person in this episode?
Not really.
Does he do anything specifically terrible?
Well, look, I want to say, in the Lazarus maze thing, he's just a stupid person.
He's just dumb.
Yes.
It's
he's dumb. And it doesn't come off as funny because there's not. It just play that way throughout the entire sequence. The bookends of the episode are okay, especially his interaction with Mooncake at the end. But also because we're just bouncing all over the place in this episode, I feel like we don't have to stay on Gary for too long. But yeah, the Lazarus maze sequence in particular was the most frustrating to sit through.
Yeah, when Avocato gets them out and he's like, I saved you. He's like, yeah, but like I helped you too. He's like, no, I got us out there. And he's like, oh yeah, but still. It was just so frustrating because Gary didn't help at all. And like the only reason I can think of that Avocato wants to stay with him is because he has this bond with Mooncake, and like that's his saving grace in the series so far. Because Mooncake is like, you know, the ultimate weapon key / cute friend. But like without that, Avocato would have no reason to be with him because Avocato's so much more competent than him. And Gary's so dumb.
Because Gary's obviously very dumb. I think Gary is charismatic, and I think that
There you go.
Avocado likes him because of that.
I guess it is. It depends on who.
Charismatic is subjective.
Is.
Yeah.
I think Avocado is attracted to Gary's blind loyalty.
Yes,
yeah,
I think so.
That makes me worried though, because like Quinn is also very competent, and if she becomes a member, is it just gonna be like serious, capable Avocado, serious, capable Quinn, and then like Gary just like getting in the way and being dumb?
Yeah, we're wondering how they're. I'm
legitimately afraid of that dynamic happening.
Yeah, it's interesting if Avocato will be written off if Quinn's in the play. It seems like Avocato is just a major character, so we'll see if all three of them are part of the team and how that works. But I don't know. I thought he was fine this episode. He didn't do anything bad. Like in the first episode, he's really unsympathetic because he's just an asshole and goes hitting on Quinn and thinks he's in love with her and like knocks out this guard all just for no reason. But he doesn't do anything like that. We've kept him in check here.
The Quinn worship is still kind of there. It's just like more in the background. I will say, like I have decided I really like Kevin, and I think the reason I like Kevin is
because Gary does not like Kevin.
No, because Kevin is the only one who's as obnoxious as Gary, and Gary has to kill him all the time, and that's like the retribution that makes me okay with it. Because like Kevin freaking loves Gary, and Gary hates him, and I love that. At least there's one person who can get under Gary's skin.
I've decided I really.
I like Kevin a lot.
You decided you like Kevin. Okay.
Yes, I'm gonna be the #1 fan person.
I liked Kevin too, first episode. Yeah.
I mean, and I honestly, low key, I think Kevin might like have a thing for Gary. Like, I think that's why he gets all the cookies, because he knows that Gary likes them, and he wants to like appreciate them the way that Gary does. There's the moment in the episode.
Are you shipping Gary and Kevin? What are you?
And he falls against the glass in front of Kevin. Kevin says, "Ooh, like pressed hams or something." Like,
so that was
Sophie has a thing for Gary, and I kind of love that because Gary hates him. I think that's wonderful. I love that dynamic so much.
Michelle is shipping Gary and Kevin.
Well, I mean, even if it's one-sided, yeah, I ship it a little.
I believe Kevin is programmed to like Gary. I think that is he's the companion bot. Yeah.
He's the mental companion or
something.
Whatever it's called.
Crazy.
Yeah. He does appreciate Gary's hams, in this. I asked last podcast whether I can ship Gary and Avocato. Avocato didn't seem to appreciate Gary's dick situation.
He didn't know.
No, so that might be sunk. What were we talking about before this?
Mooncake had a bit of an odd reaction too.
Mooncake didn't like seeing
kind of like, what?
Yeah.
He's a pure child. He wasn't expecting.
Yeah, Mooncake is a child, exactly. Yeah.
Adult
he doesn't understand the dick situation.
Yeah, he doesn't understand.
Yet. He doesn't.
He's too young.
No.
He's too young.
Okay, so Gary's fine here. Okay, done. Sure. Let's talk about the Lazarus trap. I agree this was one of the weaker points of the episode, but it's kind of a familiar concept. Anything you think becomes reality. Gary thinks about cookies. Makes sense with what we've seen so far. There's one sequence I really appreciated, which I feel like one thing. I thought this episode was funny. Like, I didn't necessarily think the first two episodes were that funny. I think this episode was funnier than the first two. One of the great lines I feel like was Gary's like narrating what the cookie's doing. He's like, "Why is that one cookie lone wolfing it across the edge?"
Yeah,
he's like an angel. Eyes stabbing my eyes. Yeah, I feel like that's like the sense of humor of this show, and I thought that was like a successful moment in the sequence that was otherwise just like kind of abstract. And I don't think it was bad. It was fine.
I liked it. That was one of my favorite moments of the show, actually. Just because, like, they're, like, hanging off a ledge. They're about to fall into lava. And then all of a sudden, like, Gary comes in with that line. And I'm like, oh, my gosh.
Why is he lone wolfing it down?
Gary's priorities at their finest.
Yeah. I thought that was great. Lazarus trap. It didn't even last that long. I thought it was fine. They imagine Quinn and little Kato being there. And why do they get out of it by Avocato punching Gary? Because Gary's just imagining the whole thing?
I don't know.
Yeah, they had to wake up, but
they had to like wake up out of the simulation because they were
I didn't really get it.
Yeah, I didn't understand that, but it was fine because it was over. So
wow, okay.
Wow.
I mean, if
punched,
Gary getting punched is also good. Yeah, if the idea is that Gary's just imagining them being there and that he just needs to stop imagining completely, I don't know. Anyway, we had that. Let's talk Quinn. Quinn's. I talked about in the first podcast, very worried about Quinn.
I'm worried about Quinn too.
Yeah, just the show's usage of Quinn. In this episode, she is investigating this gravitational disturbance that she, in the first two episodes, she goes against the command and she takes off and Traitor is updating her on the situation. She's being followed. We have this gag of Traitor trying on all of Quinn's clothes.
Oh, that's the name of the six-eyed guy?
Traitor, yeah.
I hate him most.
Why do you hate Traitor?
Because he's basically Quinn's Kevin, but unlike Gary, I like Quinn. She doesn't need an obnoxious person trying to, like, ruin her life.
I love that take. Traitor is it's Quinn's Kevin.
He is, and it makes me sad because we already have Kevin. I don't think we need an extra one. So I wish he would just go away.
Did you like that gag? Did you like that gag? Yeah, get out of her house. Yeah,
get out of her house.
Yeah, yeah. What do we think of that gag, April, Alex?
I thought it was a little bit funny, just because like he's like obsessed with her, and like it's like the different like. I wouldn't say that Kevin is obsessed with Gary, but like he is obsessed with Quinn, and he's like, why would I be in your house trying on your clothes that are so slim fit? And I'm like, what?
It's like he wants to emulate Quinn, whereas Kevin like wants to be Gary's best friend and maybe more.
Yes.
But that's my hot take. But yeah, it's like a different kind of admiration.
I thought it was a little bit funny though.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
It was funny in an awkward sort of way rather than a laugh out loud sort of way.
Yeah, that type of gag usually gets offensive to me. I thought they towed the line fine, so I was happy that they kind of stayed on the right side of that. But I heard Olin Rogers recently was on a Facebook Live interview. I think it was at that Nashville event, and he says by the end of the season, Traitor will be your favorite character.
No!
He said everyone who's seen all of them loves Tribor the most.
Well, if Mooncake exists, this is impossible.
Okay, good take.
True. That's the most hot take.
I was also a little bit upset because I really wanted him to be voiced by Bill Hader, but he's not.
He's
I
voiced
was
by
sad.
Owen Rogers as well. I think a very specific voice.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going on a Tribor journey. We'll see. For now, we're not on board, but maybe we'll get there.
Yeah, so how if Quinn is joining up with Gary and Avocato, so is Tribor going to keep appearing through these holograms? Is he going to come up to space to catch her? Or
I don't know. Probably he'll come to
Does he
space.
have a tracking device on her and leads the authorities to her?
No.
I feel like he might have implanted something.
Tribor will never betray Quinn. No, can't happen.
I think he'll unintentionally do it.
Yeah, he might unintentionally.
It can
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah. We have this other sequence of Quinn with Chuck, voiced by
AKA Douche Canoe.
I believe Conan O'Brien is Chuck. Conan
Okay.
O'Brien's studio is the production company is producing this show. So yeah, he's here. He's Chuck. He looks like Chuck, and
It's out.
it's basically just him. He calls Quinn calls him Jerk Nuts and Douche Canoe.
Douche canoe.
Thoughts?
Jerk nuts is a new insult for me. I have not heard that one before.
Douche
Yeah.
Canoe is a better insult.
I was gonna
I
say
do.
I really enjoyed douche canoe. Like
Yeah, I'd heard Douche Canoe before. It's a good one. Yeah,
that one made me like snicker a little bit. So
Chuck is sad that Quinn would call him this.
Chuck
Yeah.
is sad, but he ends up using the override to catch her anyway. I don't know. I was kind of like, oh, okay, cool. Like, I feel like in those situations, usually what happens is they feel bad and they get distracted or whatever, and the person they're chasing runs away. So like, I don't know. I just like that it's like an insult, but whatever. I'm still doing my job.
Right. I appreciate that also.
Yeah, I think he channeled his hurt into catching her, basically. Yeah. He's like, so yeah. But then, is Chuck dead at the end? I feel like
No.
this is the big question because
we're gonna get Chuck back.
I would say
Yeah.
yes, except I don't think we're gonna kill off the Conan character so quickly. That would be my hesitation here.
On the other hand, there are several voice actors here to voice different characters, so you know.
Yeah, he could be a different character later down the line. Yeah, his ship the ship gets destroyed by the gravitational disturbance. Quinn escapes and sends out the
Distress signal.
distress signal, yeah, which Gary picks up on. So there. Other small moments of the episode. So we had a scene of Little Kato in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
That scene was super random.
Yeah, it did not pay off in any way for the rest of the episode.
I'm sure we're gonna get more Little Kato to help make it make sense later.
There was a female voice that handed him a electronic device. Are we thinking that's the Quinn robot?
It is. We all know. There's only one female really in the show so far, except for that like bodysuit character that wasn't really a person.
Yeah, so there's Nightfall, who we speculate is a future version of Quinn, and Nightfall, I believe, was later in the episode when she prevents a guy from shooting down the ship.
Yeah.
It was
Dylan. That's when all the 4 plot threads converged because even she was there.
Right. Well, I don't think Nightfall was really a plot thread in this episode. It's more like at the end, Quinn's distress signal was picked up by Gary. That's those two converging. Lord Commander comes down to they go to Mooncake. Those two converge. Lord Commander comes down. All 3 of them are there together. Yeah. But Quinn, the Quinn robot or future version or clone or AI or whatever is so we think that's maybe the one who's giving Little Kato the tablets with instructions with something on it. It could be. I don't know.
I think so.
It would make
anyway.
sense that it's the same person doing all these things. And the question I have, because it seems like something's going to go down, and like Gary's probably supposed to die in the future, and like this Quinn is trying to help that not happen and change the future.
Mhm.
But if the future Quinn knows it's going to happen, why doesn't she just change everything herself? Why does she need Gary to do it? Gary doesn't know what's going on. That's like my big question. Like, why doesn't future Quinn just like fix whatever's going to happen herself if she already knows what's going to happen?
Right.
Why
So why
is she
does
still trying to get Gary to do it?
Yeah, why doesn't she go to the moment where Gary's the galaxy one explodes or whatever leads him into the state that we're seeing pre-credits?
Well, one potential factor we can loop into this is actually something we see in this episode where Gary and Avocato go into the temporal wormhole at the beginning of the episode. And I think Avocato mentioned something like that could take us millions of years into the future or the past. Like it seems like it's without out of their control. So if we're going to introduce time travel, something we talked about in the previous podcast, we've now introduced this temporal wormhole concept. So that could be one way we're going to try doing that. And that would also explain why she can't maybe influence things directly if we're going to go into the complicated time travel rules of paradoxes and all those things.
So you're saying she can't just like jump forward and back whenever she wants to.
Yeah, there's two possible things. One is she could have been sent to a specific time and she's just stuck in the same timeline as them now. But also, it might be a paradox thing where she just can't directly interfere. Either of those seem valid. I agree with Alex that this temporal worm is going to pay off later. That's what the sequence when Gary's naked in the beginning, and they go 4 days into the future, but time-related disruptions have no effect on his sentence.
Yep.
So that seems like a specifically introduced element. There's a lot of plot elements at play here. Like, I think this is definitely ambitious with its narrative scope.
Also, I just want to add, like, since this is 4 days into the future, so does that mean in episode 2, that whole Quinn plotline, was that in the future? Because, like, at the end of this episode, they're in the same timeline now. So,
I mean, she took off. She could have been in space for 4 days traveling, I guess.
That's true.
I think that's what we're supposed to assume.
I don't think it really matters. But, she does take off and she's in space. There could have...
I just think it would be interesting if you introduced that, like, the plot lines within the same... plot lines within the same episode are happening at different times.
Look, space travel takes time, you guys, so... I think I could believe that it took her 4 days to get to, where everyone else is. So
different plot lines happening at different times is it's an interesting. I could definitely see the show doing this. I don't know if that was the intent of this episode. It's something Game of Thrones has been doing a lot recently. It's this season of Ruby was doing that actually. It all depends how you pay it off. I think is what we'll see. But back to Quinn. We're worried about this character. Mel sent in her thoughts. She couldn't be here, but I want to read her Quinn thoughts here, and then we'll see if we agree or disagree with her thoughts on Quinn. She says, "I want more for Quinn to do. She's basically surrounded by men who are superiors, and now a temptation for Gary in the Dolly Room. I want her to exist outside the context of men in the show, but considering she's the only female character, it's probably not going to happen. I think the concept of the token female in a male-heavy action group is super outdated concept for a female character. It basically casts her as the strong female character, an outlier as a woman in a male-dominated world instead of making the presence of woman commonplace. I think this is particularly unnecessary in fantasy where the gender and societal norms out of the world don't have to apply. I had a similar issue in Avatar Last Airbender, with women who had same powers and skills in bending as the men and were still, in many cultures we encountered, expected to use their bending for less." I mean, that's the whole thing about gender norms and stuff in this show, which we haven't really seen a lot of. What do you think of Mel's take here, Michelle?
I agree. I think it is something to consider. And like that, I think that's part of the reason, like, it's hard for me to like Gary at face value, because he is the one who is the most incompetent, and he's the main character, and he's like a white guy. And there's a certain amount of power that comes with being able to be kind of not the best and be allowed to be kind of silly and dumb and just like do what you want and have that work out and have that be something that still can make you an okay person in the eyes of the viewer, or at least someone we're supposed to be able to identify with to some extent. Whereas Quinn is like super capable, but still no one listens to her. She has to go out on her own. Like, she has people following her. And at the same time, she's like, the reason Gary likes her is because he's attracted to her. And it kind of sucks that she can't be, silly and kind of incompetent and still like seen as a good person. Like, she has the weight of being awesome. And I feel like, again, there is a certain amount of power to like not having to be awesome and not having to be competent that is a lot of times like given to, white male protagonists that isn't necessarily given as much to other kinds of people. And so it's like a perpetuating problem. But like, I'm really hopeful Quinn's going to have like more to do. But yeah, I agree with Mel in the fact that she can't exist out of doing things for men, because she's the only woman so far that we've met who wasn't, a bodysuit, which isn't really a character. So it's like unfortunate, and it's good that we talk about it because it is like there. And I do think it's like a problem. I hope it gets better. It's only episode 3, so there's time for it to get better. But like, yeah, I agree, it is a problem.
Yeah. April, what do you think?
Wow. I mean, I agree. I think it would be nice to see her doing something more, and to be more than just like that sole female character within the all male group. If I'm totally honest, I don't know that I'm not gonna like put money on that it'll happen kind of thing, just because like this is just it just seems to be kind of like the trope of like how these groups go. Like there's that one female, she's always like super smart, competent, and then the guys are just idiots in comparison. I mean, Gary's already an idiot, and Avocato's slightly competent. I mean, he's more competent than Gary. But so I just think that that's just going to be like the unfortunate dynamic that she's going to fall into. I think that like with the whole Nightfall situation, it would be interesting if that's how they made her more than just, you know, the girl in the group kind of thing. But that, you know, again, that would be something that would like go like way deeper than what I think the show is going to do, if I'm just completely honest. And I you know, I would like to see, you know, more, I guess, like stronger female characters in shows, even in shows like this that are supposed to be just super fun and humorous and everything like that. But I don't know. I just feel like my time is wasted to be offended by that because unless like I start making my own shows, then I can't really like complain. Kind of thing. So.
I mean, I think you can complain.
Yeah.
If your point is it's not worth being aggravated about, then that's probably valid. But
I think it's fair to want to choose your battles because you know you still gotta live your life, and it's hard when you like when a lot of things would upset you and you still want to enjoy media.
I was gonna say like I enjoy media, and so I'm just gonna take it as it is. And I guess what's nice is because like having strong female characters is something new to media and to like, you know, shows and animated shows. And so like again, it's one of those where like I would like her to be more, but the fact that like, even if she doesn't, I'm not going to be like super disappointed. Again, I'm picking my battles, but I can also take solace in the fact that there are other shows that do have strong female characters, like, and strong female protagonists too. So it's like, okay, well, at least I have like other shows to sort of get that, you know, like,
yeah, we cover plenty of shows where there's female leads and awesome characters like that. Yeah. I recently, I forget where I read this, but we should replace strong female character in our lexicon with well-written female character.
Yeah, because strong female character is pretty much like a trope in of itself now.
Yeah. So I think the question is, like, obviously Quinn's a strong female character. She's one of the most competent people on the show. Is she a well-written character? I don't think so yet.
Not right now.
Well, part of the problem, though, is that she has had barely any screen time. Like, these last two episodes, she's gotten the smallest plot lines. Once she gets integrated into the main cast, we'll see how they deal with her. If we continue this pattern of having like 3 or 4 different plot lines, it would be interesting to see how many solo plot lines they give her even as part of the ship to maybe let her grow it on her own as a character without having to interact with the, say, Gary or Avocato, just her and maybe the AI. It'll be interesting to see if they handle that any better than they have in these first 2 Quinn episodes.
Yeah. We'll see. I think the bright spot, as mentioned, was Nightfall. We know Quinn's character is going somewhere that creates Nightfall.
Yeah.
So that's like a bright spot. Like something is coming. Yeah. And I think it's not. Yeah, the show hasn't done anything blatantly offensive yet. So it's or ever offensive at all. To be honest, it's just that Quinn's the only female character. And I said in the first podcast, I'm really hoping Quinn is just as part of a subversion on this type of situation. So we'll see. I still think that's in play. Where there's some complex narrative happening here, but we'll have to see. There's a few scenes we haven't mentioned yet, so I want to run through them quickly. One is this random scene with the Lord Commander with this guy Eric, who
and the biscuit.
Yeah, and the biscuit, and then he kills Eric. Yeah,
he carries Eric's body in his hand all the way to the arena. That feels so.
Wait, did he? I missed that.
Yeah, he like drops him, like the monster in half. Like you carried him the whole way. Wow, man. You really want to show how tough you are. Okay, I get it.
He's so tiny and menacing. It's great.
Yeah, that was an interesting scene with the biscuit joke. We started the episode with a previously on, which I think because we watched the first 2 episodes as one video on TBS, we didn't get the previously on for the second episode. But this is basically, I think this is not from the perspective of Gary; it's from the perspective of Olin Rogers, just saying what happened in the episode.
I liked it. I thought it was great.
Yeah,
And it was
like,
short, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, he's like, that's why we're watching this episode, yo. Yeah, there you go.
I like the where are they gonna hide?
Yeah, you have a really funny guy like Olin Rogers on the show. Giving him just space to be funny like that, I think, is a good call. And then our pre-credit sequence. I talked about last podcast how these pre-credit sequences probably are sometime in the future. Each minute we are counting down correlates with the next episode, and we're leading to something that's happening in the finale, which is Gary floating in space, dying in a few minutes. This episode we are down to 7 minutes of oxygen left, and he sees Carl, and he was like, Carl is dead, Gary, which I thought was very funny. It's like obviously torn off, yeah.
And what he says, that's so like Carl.
Yeah.
That's so Carl. Yeah, that was great. And he hears there's like someone's in distress, and there's an explosion, and Gary's like, actually, I'll just chill over here. So I don't really know what's happening there, but there's our update on Gary so if this ties to our discussion before, if this is what Quinn as Nightfall is trying to prevent, the situation where Gary is about to die, then it'll be interesting. I definitely think that this will not happen in the last episode. We will circumvent this happening in some way. Like, we can't just be actually building towards this real moment where Gary's floating in space.
Well,
like,
what if episode 10
though?
is
Yeah.
what if episode 10 is just all of these pre-credit sequences stitched together?
Yeah, I'm sure that's what's gonna
Got
happen.
out of budget. Sorry, enjoyed this clip show episode. Here you go.
And then at the end of the episode, we just find out he's actually a robot this entire time, and or
Yeah.
he's
Then he and Kevin can be together.
Oh my god.
That's perfect.
Did not expect the Kevin Gary ship to come into play.
well, hold on. So we have to remember it's like the opening, like the opener. Kevin is making out with Beth, so we can't just discredit that. And Beth is the refrigerator, in case you guys forgot.
I did, yeah.
I did forget. Thank you.
I did forget, yeah. Okay, we'll
They're
see.
saying Gary's a homewrecker.
Oh no!
Maybe he's just, I don't know. Maybe
It's a
he's one of
fridge,
those
it's not a
robots.
Okay. Kevin's big moment at the end. He comes in on the Galaxy One. By the way, have we mentioned that the ship is called the Galaxy One? Because it is, but I don't know if the show's mentioned that. Anyway.
If they did,
Yeah, he says, he's like, Kevin's like, I'm gonna save you, Gary. I'm saying, yeah. So he goes on a whole Kevin thing about saving Gary. I continue to think Kevin is funny, but doesn't have material yet. I feel like this episode reinforces that.
Yeah, although I think this is the best of the Kevin jokes so far this show.
It was, but it was also just him saying variations of "I'm gonna save you" over and over. So
Which is funny on its own.
He really cares about Gary.
yeah, he does. He does.
He's holding 2 guns. He came for him in
This
his
is
moment of
wild.
need.
Michelle's like, I'm breaking out the fan fiction.
Yeah, there's always one weird ship you kind of get into, and this is that one for this show. Absolutely.
Okay. I mean, for you, I don't know if anyone else has this reaction.
We'll
But
see what happens. There's more
Yeah.
material you might see.
yeah, maybe this is what we're leading to. Okay, other random funny lines I didn't mention. Gary's like, he ghosted through that wall. Like, what?
Oh,
Yeah. And then that was like the helper, and then the actual helper is named Stevel, and they're commenting on that, and that makes him untrustworthy.
He has
Stevel.
evil in his name.
Yeah. I like that Avocato agreed with him on that. Like, that is sketchy.
he was like, "Whoa, wait, okay."
You should
That
reconsider.
is very alarming.
Yeah. Gary when he accepts that Mooncake is a weapon, he says, "You are a planet destroying super weapon. That's so friggin' tight."
Yeah, he's very supportive. Very good parenting right there. Unconditional love of your child thing.
Of your child thing, yeah. Oh, and then the other thing is that he says, Lord Commander says, Mooncake can unlock final space, and Gary says, what the mother-loving crap is final space? So he also did not know what it was.
No one knows.
Yeah, and crap is definitely the word that Gary says all the time, I think. That's like the base of the Gary humor.
And freaking.
Freaking and crap, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
With the double crap, stuff like that, yeah. A lot of that. So, there you go. Okay. Michelle, final thoughts on Chapter 3.
I think I like it more now that we've talked about it a lot. It did have a lot of good moments. And it spawned my first ship for the show, so that's definitely a plus.
I forgot the other Kevin moment when Kevin and Mooncake or when Gary and Mooncake are having their moment. Gary says, it doesn't change anything between you and this guy, and Kevin comes by, he's like, me?
Oh, yeah. See, the evidence is just building, guys.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't see it before, but now that we go over the evidence, literally all of Kevin's interactions are in relation to Gary. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of, wow. It's a good call. We'll have to track this throughout the season. April, final thoughts on Chapter 3.
After we talked about it, I'm pretty sure this is my favorite episode so far. So, yeah. Wow, good episode.
Convinced. Okay.
Convinced.
Alex, final thoughts.
One thing I don't think we mentioned, we mentioned the first episode how the music in the show is pretty good. Here, the one that stood out was when Mooncake enters the Coliseum, and the Coliseum music in general is just very like do 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 do. I can't repeat it right, but like that music was just very haunting in a way, like in how like quiet and steady it was. So I just enjoyed that particular selection for that scene. And yeah, just in general, the Mooncake is the star of this episode. The other segments are fine enough to keep the episode moving quickly. And I think the stuff that's been introduced in terms of story, it keeps me wanting to watch. And I think all in all, this is a strong episode, maybe on par with episode 1, if not better.
Yeah, I think about 3, 1, 2 is my ranking so far, but the one music that I think the music continues to be great. I was really reminded of the Interstellar score again by I don't remember when in this episode, but some cue here. And Owen Rogers mentioned a lot that Interstellar is a big influence of the show. Correction from last podcast. The show animated by Jam-Filled Ottawa, but Shadow Machine does pre and post production, so I got that wrong last time. But I bring that up because this episode again looks great. Like I think that's one of the big highlights of
really
I was gonna say I've never had a problem with the animation in this show. It's very on par.
I think it's maybe the number one good aspect of the show is how well it's produced, just around the board. Just really
agreed.
Great show. Yeah.
Oh, one final thing: when they land on this planet, I forget its name, but planet Yarno, it just looks like Tatooine, right?
I guess
am I the one who's just a ripoff of Tatooine?
Oh, I forgot. Gary's also on drugs when they land. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
so
there's the guy that's ripping people's face off and is like,
he was excited for the death apocalypse or whatever.
Deathropolis, yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty rowdy fan.
Yeah, that's a lot of stuff.
Probably.
Yeah, he's a sports fan. Yeah, Muno bumps is what Gary is on. Yeah, so that happened too. This is really
good.
Yeah, too much. Really jam packed. There's really aggressive pacing is one of the episodes 2 and 3. So we'll see if that continues. But I think it's better than non-aggressive pacing. Like ideally, it would be in the middle, but. It's interesting. Okay, so let us know your thoughts on Final Space Chapter 3, what you think of the show so far. You can leave a comment on our website, overlyanimated.com. Click on the article, and you can comment there. If you're listening on YouTube, can comment there. Leave us an iTunes review. That'd be great on our Final Space feeds. Shout out to the Final Space Reddit where we posted this. Final Space Reddit's cool so far. And, I don't know what else, shout out to Owen Rogers who said he liked it. Thank you. Thanks, Owen. Yeah. And, hi. Yeah.
Hi.
Hey.
Choklipa. Yeah, there. That's what I was. What's your favorite Mooncake line? Is it QQQQQ? Is that the new favorite? Let us know in the comments. And you can also I keep getting confused with Mooncake and Final Space. I want to combine the two into like Moon Space.
Why don't we just change the name of the show?
Mooncake the show. Yeah. Final cake, yeah.
Final cake.
We have our Discord has a Final Space channel, overlyanimated.com/Discord. Support us via Patreon, patreon.com/overlyanimated. Thank you very much to all of our patrons, especially our patron of the podcast, Damien, aka Diamond Day. And thanks as always to our patron executive producers, John, Ryan, Steve, Alex, Andy, and Hugh. We'll
Very
be back.
Hugh in this episode, by the way.
Yeah, H-U-E instead of our H-U-G-H. Yeah, true. Hugh is, I'll end with, I think Steve's, Hugh is all in Gary's head theory is busted because, Hugh tells, Avocato that they didn't find, little Kato anywhere.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
yeah. So, but theory busted, unfortunately. It was a good theory, though. Okay, so more Hugh. That's what we want for Chapter 4. We'll see you guys for Chapter 4. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.
Shukri.